Well, hello everyone, this is Jeff Clark with another very special unboxing video. I've been collecting some of these 747s, and today I get to unbox another one. And I've had this model since September, so I haven't yet unboxed it, so today is going to be the day. Let's see what we got here. Now this is a model from Collectible Jets, so it is one of the places I order a lot of my models from, because they pack the box very well and they have a nice pre-order setup. And this was a pre-order model. I ordered it like in January, and it took almost 9 months for it to get here, so I'm glad that it's finally here. And this is an InFlight model. So the InFlight models don't have the box like the G-BNLYs do. There's just a little wrinkle down here, and they have a sleeve instead. So let's take a look at the box. I think the InFlight always has a more interesting box than the G-BNLY does, and JC Wings also has a very interesting box as well. Nothing too exciting there. But the sleeve is always nice to kind of enjoy a bit more interest, I think. Oh, I think I put it upside down. There she is. And InFlight always give you this cool little card, which I think is nice. And this has a lot of details of the Landor 100-year anniversary. This aircraft registration is G-BNLY, as you can see there. That's a nice little feature. InFlight also has their customized stand that goes with the aircraft, which is one thing that G-BNLY hasn't ever done, and JC Wings have just stopped doing. So I hope that they'll get back on the bandwagon here and start doing these plaques, because they definitely make it special. It's metal. Looks to be in good condition. So as I said, this is an InFlight 200 model, the BA Anniversary 100 livery. So the Landor, which is what the name of this particular livery is, was delivered to London Heathrow on February the 10th, 1993. And that original aircraft, that first delivery, was named City of Swansea. Swansea's a city on the southern coast of Wales, right on the border with England. And that was the name of this particular aircraft when they repainted it. So it was flown to Dublin on February 10th, 2019, and returned back to Heathrow on March 9th, 2019 with this Landor livery and renamed City of Swansea. So it's kind of a nice harken back to that original aircraft. So and that was back in 1993. So this livery was the one that was carried until the current Chatham Dockyard livery that they currently use. So this livery was designed by Landor and Associates in 1984. Pearl gray and midnight blue are the colors with this, and it was used from 1984 until 1997. And this aircraft will carry this livery until they retire it in 2023, when they retire the rest of the 747s. This is one of 3 heritage livery aircraft 747s that British Airways have. They have this one, the BOAC, and the Negus. I have both of the BOACs from InFlight and G-BNLY, so if you haven't seen those videos, check them out. I also have the classic 100 747 100s. These are 747 400s, which are carrying this heritage livery, and then they have an Airbus A319, which is carrying the BEA livery as well. So let's take her out of the packaging here and have a look. And this doesn't have the removable gear. So I did have a unboxed an Airbus A350 from InFlight, and it had the removable gear on it. So I think InFlight are getting around to doing that, which is good. It was one of the shortcomings of the InFlight models, is they didn't have the removable gear. So these colors here, as I said, were the pearl gray and the midnight blue. It's not an actual white color. It's a very pale, pale gray, which is really interesting to look at. And it has the coat of arms of British Airways here on the tail. And they did some little bit of changes. The livery before this was the Negus livery, which had a capital B, and then everything else was not capitalized. So with the Landor livery, they capitalized the British Airways logo there. And then we have this bright red brilliant Speedbird. So BOAC had the Speedbird on their aircraft, and this is the harkening back to that with this livery. Each of the retro liveries, or each of the liveries of British Airways, have tended to have that kind of marker on there to sort of harken back to those previous years. So the coat of arms is on the tail for British Airways, and the title was capitalized. And then they, in 1985, a year after they introduced it, they increased the size of the coat of arms on the tail. And the radome cover here was originally black. The whole thing was black here, but in 1985 they changed the top half to white so that it matches the rest of the aircraft. Pretty neat history with British Airways, as this is the 100th anniversary, so they were kind of doing a heritage livery for that. And the company started out as Aircraft Transport and Travel Limited, and flew the first international scheduled flight on August 25th, 1919, and that was from London to Paris. And that company went out of business pretty soon after that, merged with another company, and then that company was merged with 3 other airlines to form what was then Imperial Airways. That was in 1924. And that Imperial Airways merged with British Airways Limited in 1939 to form BOAC. So British Overseas Airways Corporation. Pretty complex history that British Airways has. Then in 1974, BOAC merges with British European Airways, BEA, and that was formed the British Airways that we have now. So BEA operates to 160 destinations. They have 277 aircraft. They have 33 active 747-400s right now. They just replaced GCIVC, I believe it was, a couple days ago. And they're being replaced with the more economical twins, the A350, the 787, and the 777-9 when it comes out. Serial number of this aircraft, 27090. Line number was 959. This is a 747-436. The first flight was on January 25th, 1993, and was delivered February 10th, 1993. This is running the Rolls-Royce RB211 524G, which puts out just under 60,000 pounds of thrust apiece. The RB211 is a very commonly used aircraft engine. You see it on the 767, the 757. It's a very commonly used engine, and it's a real workhorse around the world. So the length of this aircraft, 230 feet, 231 feet 10 inches. The wingspan, 211 feet 5 inches. Height is 63 feet 8 inches. Maximum takeoff weight, 910,000 pounds. Holy smokes, that's a lot of weight. Range is 7,670 nautical miles. And of course, British Airways, part of the One World livery. This is, I think, my 7th British Airways model, so all of those are the 747s. The first class section is going to be from the nose to the L or the R1 door as we see on this side, and then there is 14 of those. The business class section is the entirety of the upstairs, the upper deck, and then it's from the R1 here to between the or to the L3 door. Then there is 30 seats that are business, and those are the lie flats, of course. Excuse me, that was 86 business. So yeah, upstairs is a lot of seats up there, and then as I mentioned, we got a good chunk of the aircraft here that's all business seats. Then there is Economy Plus, and there's 30 seats, and that's from between the third and fourth door, and then the economy section is 145 seats, and that's from in between here all the way to the tail of the aircraft. So a total of 275 passengers can be on this aircraft. So let's have a look at City of Swansea here. Really cool. Love the Speedbird there. We've got the Royal Mail insignia, which is correct to this aircraft because they are a carrier of a Royal Mail. We have our angle of attack sensors and pitot tubes here and some static ports. You've got your row 1 up here, which is right in the nose of the aircraft, so when you're actually sitting in that seat you can see forward. So here you can see that you can see the windows there from this nose aspect. So you can actually sort of almost see down the runway. It's not quite fully visible, but pretty close. So we have our windshield wipers and our spray nozzles on for the windshield. Partial registration, NLY there, and the crew escape hatch. City of Swansea there. The mechanism for the door on the L1 door. Typically they'll have 2 boarding doors, one for first class and one for the business section, or sometimes they'll also have one for the access door upstairs on the 747s. I think that's the Royal Mail insignia there next to the door, but I can't quite see that, so if anybody knows what that is, please let me know. We have our emergency entrance markings for the rescuers if there is some emergency. The L2 door. There's our static ports. Here are the landing lights, and they're not jewels unfortunately, just painted on. Here's the L3 door, and then again on each of these doors we have the same marking, so it'd be interesting to see what that says, that little black writing there. Now there is no wing walkway on the 747 because the emergency slide extends out and aft over the wing, so that passengers exiting out of this door will actually slide down along the side of the fuselage. Here's the L4 door. Nicely done with the markings on there. You can really see nice and clearly what is there. Cut here in emergency is what that little writing says. And then we have our 100 heritage livery, 1919 to 2019. The registration, G-BNLY, and then the L5 door. We have the horizontal stabilizer, a little bit of dust there. Really nicely done here. You can see the how the aft part of the horizontal stabilizer, the elevator, is painted, and this forward section is not. It's very accurate. This is the intake for the auxiliary power unit. We've got our British Airways coat of arms. To fly to SEWVE, I think that's what that says. I'm sure it's supposed to say serve, I'm guessing. And the registration, partial registration at the tip of the tail, NLY. Let's look at the right side of the aircraft here. Again, we have our pitot tubes. And we can see the upper deck nicely done there. There's another entrance for the rescuers in case of emergency. Here we have our LD3 unit loading door, and this is for loading the cargo and the bags and such. And then the City of Swansea. And that's really nicely done. Stands out great against that midnight blue there. And this circle here I think is a static port, or it could be a light, an illumination light. It's amazing how many lights there are actually on an aircraft when you see it fully illuminated. And you can see they've got a little bit of overspray here on this blend into the wing root. Here's our R3 door. And there is our aft LD3 unit loading door, and this is the hold number 5 door, which is where your bulky items go, push chairs, etc. The registration. APU exhaust housing doors, or APU housing, I should say. This hole here is the APU exhaust, and then there is a strobe light as well located on the tail. Very nicely done. Another intake for the APU there, this black square. And they've got nice markings there for the trim location on the horizontal stabilizer, so this part of the aircraft will tilt up and down during cruise to accommodate for the change in fuel weight from as the fuel weight shifts from one portion of the aircraft to the other. They can adjust that horizontal stabilizer so that it can avoid the pilot having to constantly push or pull back on the stick. Nice work on the wings here. Just a little bit of dust. And Aviation Realtor Direct do a really nice job with the 3D effect of the spoilers there and the flaps. This uses a triple slotted Fowler flap. Our ailerons, our wingtip device. This is to improve efficiency of the wing, allow it to generate more lift. The RB211 does not have a strake, which was a fin that you would see on the inboard side of the engine. That also is a lift device. Let's have a look inside. Now, this being an in-flight model, I'm not guessing that these fans will spin, because they typically don't with in-flight or Aviation Retail Direct models. But they've got the nice spinner there. The fans look good. Got some good markings on the engines for the caution. Not a whole lot of detail there, but you can see quite a bit. See, the pylon goes into the nacelle very nice and cleanly. Nice metallic paint there on the pylon itself. Pretty cool. You can see our green navigation light here. There's also a strobe light and then a position light, which will be on the aft part of the wingtip. And here we can see our fuel dump valve. nozzle. And then here's our flap track fairings, which are the hide the worm gear for the flap track mechanism. And we can see the underside of the flaps there. The gear is really nice. It doesn't tilt. It does roll very well. It's metal and has a nice look to it. Aviation Retail Direct does a nice job with that. When they get the tilting gear on most of their other models, that'll be a really good day. So I think this is just working on their standard 747 mold. So on the top we've got our anti-collision beacon. We've got numerous traffic collision avoidance system antennas, VHF antennas. This is the auto direction finder, these two, auto direction finder 1 and 2. These are raised up so you can see that they have a little bit of a 3D effect to them. This is the SATCOM antenna. Here we have the emergency locator transmitter antenna, and then the vertical stabilizer, which has its own antenna on it as well. Let's have a look underneath. We got another VHF antenna here. The doors, the front wheel does rotate, and it does have jewels for the landing lights, which is nice. And the shock absorber on the 747 faces forward, so that's correct. And we have the partial registration LY. See nice marking on the VHF antenna there, the stripes. Pretty cool. This is a drain, I believe. These are the AC pack vents here. Our NACA ducts, which are designed to allow air from outside to enter the aircraft so it can be used for air conditioning and such. We've got the body gear doors there, and the wing gear doors, and they do have a nice groove to them, so they are good for the 3D effect. Anti-collision beacon here. Then we've got our body gear. And on the 747, the rear wheels on the body gear, actually turn so that it reduces scrubbing, which is dragging of the tires going sideways on such a large aircraft. Got a hole for the stand. Another VHF antenna with the spiral painted on there. Very nice. Pressure release valves. And they've got some nice little doors on them so you can really see that they stick out, which is pretty cool. And then this is another antenna. This actually might be the emergency locator antenna. And then the doors for the APU. But you can see the red line of the Speedbird. It travels all the way along the fuselage, all the way to the tail here. Very cool. So I grew up on the flight path to Heathrow, and it was about maybe 5 miles from the runway, so got to see these fly over the house all the time, and also went spotting a lot at Heathrow, so got to see a lot of really cool aircraft there, and got to see these Landor liveries flying over the house all the time, and also got to see the Negus and the Chathams as well. So it's nice to have these in the collection, and nice to sort of have those memories of that. I haven't actually flown a British Airways 747-400 as yet, but I'm trying to do that before they retire them. So it's just a case of when the right flight comes up and the right price and circumstances, then hopefully I'll get to board one. Just beautiful. This still says the SEWV, so I'm guessing it must be correct. And you can actually see the little bit of the Negus / Landor livery there in the shield. Very cool. All right, let's put this stand on here. Oops, there's a little plug there. Fits in there pretty good, not too tight. Kind of wants to sit forward there, but it looks nice on the stand. It sits nice and straight on the stand, which is good. Doesn't have any tilt left or right, which is nice. Beautiful aircraft, especially this plate on the stand that really makes such a huge difference. See if I can put any. No. That's pretty standard for the aviation retail direct models, so I'm not surprised by that. So I don't know if Gemini has a version of this out yet. If they do, they will probably bring it out in the flaps down version as well. I always recommend the flaps down version because it's very, very interesting to look at and kind of adds a bit more detail to the model, makes it more fun. I've got one of those in the BOAC livery and one that's the Aviation Retail Direct / InFlight, and those don't have the flaps down versions as yet. So hopefully maybe they will have some. I don't know if you're going to get this model, but it's a highly recommended one. It's going to be a great addition to the cabinet. Of course, 747, just a beautiful aircraft designed in 1969 by Joe Sutter and the group out in Seattle to develop a new aircraft, and this has really changed the whole face of air travel since that time. So it's really kind of nice to have these. And the 747 is just a great model to have, also a great aircraft to fly on too. So let me know if you're going to get this model, what you think of it, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks a lot for watching.